Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are reading from When the Light of the World Was Subdued, Our Songs Came Through, a Norton anthology of Native Nations poetry edited by Joy Harjo. I'm going to read a few excerpts from the introduction by Joy Harjo from this sacred book. We begin with the land, quote, "We begin with the land. We emerge from the earth of our mother, and our bodies will be returned to earth. We are the land. We cannot own it, no matter any proclamation by paper state. We are literally the land, a planet. Our spirits inhabit this place. We mark our existence with our creations. It is poetry that holds the songs of becoming, of change, of dreaming, and it is poetry we turn to when we travel those places of transformation like birth, coming of age, marriage, accomplishments, and death. We sing our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, our human experience in time, into, and through existence. What then distinguishes indigenous poetry from other world poetry traditions? Much depends on indigenous language constructs which find their way into poems written in other languages, as in English here. My own poem, She Had Some Horses, which Amy will read, would not have been written without stomp dance or without my having heard Navajo horse songs. There is no such thing as a Native American, nor is there a Native American language. We call ourselves Muskogee, Dainee, or any of the other names of our tribal nations. In many cases, these names often translate as the people. Within these pages, you will find 161 poets. The poets span 4 centuries from the 17th to the present. The earliest recorded written poem by a Native person was composed as an elegy by Eleazar, a senior at Harvard College in 1678, whose tribal identity remains unknown. He most likely died before graduating. We do not know anything about Eleazar's life. All we have is this poem on the death of that truly venerable man, D. Thomas Thatcher, who passed on to the land from this life, 18 of August, 1678. In this collection, more than 90 nations are represented. This speaks to the powerful presence and practice of poetry within our communities. The magnificent actors and brilliant poet who are reading in order of appearance are Corinne Conley, Kay Weissman, Amy Gerstler. Here's Corinne Conley.
Prayer for words. My voice restore for me. Here is the wind bending the reeds westward, the patchwork of morning on gray moraine. Had I words, I could tell of origin, of God's hands, bloody with the birth at first light, of my thin squeals in the heat of his breath, of the taste of being, the bitterness and sense of camas root and choke cherries. And God, if my mute heart expresses me, I am the rolling thunder and the bursts of torrents upon rock, the whispering of old leaves, the silence of deep canyons. I am the rattle of mortality. I could tell of the splintered sun. I could articulate the night sky. Had I words. That's by N. Scott Momaday, Dine. My next poem is by Jane Johnson Schoolcraft, 1800, 1842. Ojibwe has a very long title. On leaving my children, John and Jane, at school in the Atlantic States and preparing to return to the interior. When thought reverts to my country so dear, my heart fills with pleasure and throbs with a fear. My country, my own native land, so lovely in aspect, in features so grand. Far, far in the west, what are cities to me? O land of my mother, compared unto thee. Fair land of the lakes, thou art blessed to my sight, with thy beaming bright waters and landscapes of light. The breeze and the murmur, the dash and the roar, that autumn and summer cast over the shore. They spring to my thoughts like the lullabied tongue that soothed me to slumber when youthful and young. One feeling more strongly still binds me to thee. There roved my forefathers in liberty free. There shook they the war-lance and sported the plume, ere Europe had cast o'er this country a gloom. Nor thoughts that the kingdoms more happy could be, white lords of a land so resplendent and free. Yet it is not alone that my country is fair, and my home and my friends are inviting me there. While they beckon me onward, my heart still is here, with my sweet, lovely daughter and bonny boy dear. It is learning that calls them, but tell me, can schools repay my love or give nature new rules? They may teach them the lore of the wit and the sage, to be grave in their youth, to be gay in their age. But my poor heart, what are schools to thy view, while severed from children thou lovest so true? I return to my country, I haste on my way, for duty commands me, and duty must sway. Yet I leave the bright land where my little ones dwell, with a sober regret and a bitter farewell. For there I must leave the dear jewels I love, the dearest of gifts from my master above. New York, March 18th, 1839. The next poem, The Song My Paddle Sings, is by Emily Pauline Johnson, 1863 to 1913. Mohawk. West wind, blow from your prairie nest, blow from the mountains, blow from the west. The sail is idle, the sailor too. O wind of the west, we wait for you. Blow, blow. I have wooed you so, but never a favor you bestow. You rock your cradle in the hills between, but scorn to notice my white lateen. I stove the sail, unshipped the mast. I wooed you long, but my wooing's past. My paddle will lull you into rest. O drowsy wind of the drowsy west, sleep, sleep, by your mountain steep, or down where the prairie grasses sweep. Now fold in slumber your laggard wings, for soft is the song my paddle sings. August is laughing across the sky, laughing while paddle, canoe, and I drift and drift, where the hills uplift on either side of the current swift. The river rolls in its rocky bed. My paddle is plying its way ahead. Dip, dip, while the waters flip in foam as over their breast we slip. And oh, the river runs swifter now. The eddies circle about my bow. Swirl, swirl, how the ripples curl in many a dangerous pool, a whirl. And forward far the rapids roar, fretting their margin for evermore. Dash, dash, with a mighty crash, they seethe and boil and bound and splash. Be strong, O paddle, be brave, canoe. The reckless waves you must plunge into. Reel, reel on your trembling keel, but never a fear my craft will feel. We've raced the rapid, we're far ahead. The river slips through its silent bed. Sway, sway, as the bubbles spray and fall in tinkling tunes away. And up on the hills against the sky, a fir tree rocking its lullaby, swings, swings its emerald wings, swelling the song that my paddle sings. On the Long Island Indian. How relentless, how impartial is the fleeting hand of time. By its stroke, great empires vanish, nations fall in swift decline. Once resounding through these forests, rang the war whoop shrill and clear. Once here lived a race of red men, savage, crude, but knew no fear. Here they fought their fiercest battles. Here they caused their wars to cease. Sitting round their blazing campfires, here they smoked the pipe of peace. Tall and haughty were the warriors of this fierce and warlike race. Strong and hearty were their women, full of beauteous, healthy grace. Up and down these woods they hunted, shot their arrows far and near, then in triumph to their wigwams bore the slain and wounded deer. Thus they dwelt in perfect freedom, dearly loved their native shores, wisely chose their chiefs or sachems, made their own peculiar laws. But there came a paler nation, noted for their skill and might. They aroused the red man's hatred, robbed him of his native right. Now remains a scattered remnant. On these shores they find no home. Here and there in weary exile, they are forced through their life to roam. Just as time, with all its changes, sinks beneath oblivion's wave, so today a mighty people sleep within a silent grave. My next poem, the next poet is Denise Sweet, 1953, Anishinaabe, White Earth Nation. Song for Discharming. Hear the voice of my song. It is my voice. I speak to your naked heart. Chippewa Charming Song. Before this, I would not do or say what impulse rushes in to say or do. What instinct burns within, I had learned to temper in my clever sick. While stars unlock at dawn, anonymous as the speed of light, my gray mornings began as nothing, freed of geography, and stripped of any source or consequence. I was, as you may expect, a human parenthesis. There is no simple way to say this, but drift closer, invisible one. Swim within this stream of catastrophic history. Yours? Mine? No, you decide. And then come here one more time, so that I may numb like dark and desperate, so that I may speak your name this final round. You might think an infinite black fog waits to envelop me. You might dream an endless flat of light. You might think I drink at the very edge of you, cowering like passerine, while hawks hunt the open field of my tiny wars. But little by little, like centipedes that whirl and spin and sink into the scorching sands of Sonora, or like gulls at moaning Wanakaking that rise and stir and vanish into the heat lightning of August. I will call you down and bring you into that deathly coil. I will show you each step and stare. I will do nothing, and yet it will come to you in this way, that sorcery that swallowed me and will swallow you too, at your desired stanza and in the manner of your own making. While I shake the rattle of ferocity moments before sunrise, while I burn sage and sweet grass and you, my darling, while I burn you like some ruined fetish and sing over you, over and over, like an almighty voice from the skies, it is in that fragile light that I will love you. It is in that awakening I will love myself too. In this dry land, white drought about to end, in this ghostly city of remember, you will know this too, and never be able to say. My last poem is by Henry Reelbird, Crow. Thought. Thought is like a cloud. You can see through shadow to see nothing, but you can see shadow when it touches something you know. Like that cloud shadow touching the wolf teeth mountains. When the clouds touch the mountain's top, or where it is high, the wind is good. When you're among the clouds, blurred ground among fog, you are close to he who first did everything, said my grandfather. Owens painted her horse. We are but nomads, asking for nothing but the blessing upon our earth. We are born as someone new. So then we have to be taught the good from the bad. What is good, we want you to know. What is good, we want you to use in the way that you are a person.
Thank you, Corinne. Jacklight by Louise Edrick. Anishinaabe Turtle Mountain Band. We have come to the edge of the woods. Out of brown grass where we slept unseen, out of knotted twigs, out of leaves creaked shut, out of hiding. At first the light wavered, glancing over us. Then it clenched to a fist of light that pointed, searched out, divided us. Each took the beams like direct blows, the heart answers. Each of us moved forward alone. We have come to the edge of the woods, drawn out of ourselves by this night sun, this battery of polarized acid that outshines the moon. We smell them behind it, but they are faceless, invisible. We smell the raw steel of their gun barrels, mink oil on leather, their tongues of sour barley. We smell their mothers buried chim-deep in wet dirt. We smell their fathers with scoured knuckles, teeth cracked from hot marrow. We smell the sisters of crushed dogwood, bruised apples, of fractured cups and concessions of burnt hooks. We smell their breath, steaming lightly behind the jacklight. We smell the itch underneath the caked guts on their clothes. We smell their minds like silver hammers cocked back, held in readiness for the first of us to step into the open. We have come to the edge of the woods, out of brown grass where we slept unseen, out of leaves creaked shut, out of hiding. We have come here too long. It is their turn now, their turn to follow us. Listen, they put down their equipment. It is useless in the tall brush, and now they take their first steps, not knowing how deep the woods are and lightless. How deep the woods are. I was sleeping where the black oaks move, also by Louise Erdrich. We watched from the house as the river grew helpless and terrible in its unfamiliar body, wrestling everything into it. The water wrapped around trees until their life hold was broken. They went down one by one, and the river dragged off their offspring. Nests of the heron's roots washed to homes, snags of soaked bark in the shoreline, a whole forest pulled through the teeth of the spillway, trees surfacing singly where the river poured off into arteries for fields below the reservation. When at last it was over, the long removal, they had all become the same dry wood. We walked among them, the branches whitening in the raw sun. Above us drifted herons, alone, hoarse-voiced, broken, settling their beaks among the hollows. Grandpa said, "These are the ghosts of the tree people living among us, unable to take their rest." Sometimes now, we dream our way back to the heron dance. Their long wings are bending the air into circles through which they fall. They rise again in shifting wheels. How long must we live in the broken figures their necks make, narrowing the sky? Advice to myself, again by Louise Erdrich. Leave the dishes. Let the celery rot in the bottom drawer of the refrigerator and an earthen scum harden on the kitchen floor. Leave the black crumbs in the bottom of the toaster. Throw the cracked bowl out and don't patch the cup. Don't patch anything. Don't mend. Buy safety pins. Don't even sew on a button. Let the wind have its way. Then the earth that invades us as dust, and then the dead foaming up in gray rolls underneath the couch. Talk to them. Tell them they are welcome. Don't keep all the pieces of the puzzles or the doll's tiny shoes in pairs. Don't worry who uses whose toothbrush or if anything matches at all. Accept one word to another or a thought. Pursue the authentic. Decide first what is authentic, and then go after it with all your heart. Your heart, that place you don't even think of cleaning out. That closet stuffed with savage mementos. Don't sort the paper clips from screws from saved baby teeth, or worry if we're all eating cereal for dinner again. Don't answer the telephone, ever, or weep over anything at all that breaks. Pink molds will grow within these sealed cartons in the refrigerator. Accept new forms of life and talk to the dead who drift in through the screened windows, who collect patiently in the tops of food jars and books. Recycle the mail. Don't read it. Don't read anything except what destroys the insulation between yourself and your experience of what pulls down, or what strikes at, or what shatters this ruse you call necessity. Blonde by Heather Cahoon. It is November, and the sun has gone south almost as far as it can. Cold air flies wildly through the sky, the barren, frantic reaches of trees, and through the dying grasses on Camas Prairie. This wind knows me by the color of my hair, a light in darkness. It is November, and I can see my soul slowly leaving my body every time I exhale. Dad and I take the shortcut across Camas Prairie to Dog Lake. He is telling me stories of children with black hair and brown eyes. My reflection in the side mirror tells me what I already know. He talks of these children until I am left standing in the icy wind, watching as he drives away. It is November, and the dying grasses on the prairie are the same color as my hair. If I wanted, I could lie down in them and disappear. I could escape the angry wind, but I don't. I know the land, and I would blend together into one, and then no one would know I had ever existed. So I stand. Earthquake Weather by Janice Gould. Koyoni Awi. It's earthquake weather in California. That hazy stillness along the coast just before the Santa Ana's howl out of the east, hot and dry. There were days as September when we drove down the fault line south of Hayward. We went where there were Spanish names, Sunyol and Calaveras, La Misión de San Jose. I remember seeing the cells of the Padres, their faded garments, the implements of wood and iron. We were looking for another country, something not North America. A taste, a smell, a solitary image. The eucalyptus on a bleached hill, its blue pungent leaves made you long for another home. And that was what you wanted from me, to be your other home, your other country. Being Indian, I was your cholo from the Bolivian highlands. I was your boy, full of stone and a cold sunset. At night, seated at your bedside, I was remote. I often made you weep. You, in the guise of an angelita. You lay on the low mattress, a weaving beneath your head, and watched me with your slow eyes, your sadness. When September comes with its hot electric winds, I will think of you and know somewhere in the world, the earth is breaking open. The last one is To See Letters by Orlando White. I'm sorry. Everything I write requires this alphabet. It was a notion I did not know when I was 6 years old. In kindergarten, I was more interested in the image of a letter on a flashcard. I noticed its shape distinguishing itself from its background. And then, with my eyes, I tore the O in half. In the moment, I felt language separate from its form. I recall my mother playing a word puzzle. She'd circle a line of letters amongst many other letters scattered on the page. She treated each word carefully, never touching the pen to the letters. Then she would give me the pen. I would circle random letters. She'd smile and give me a hug. My mother once told me that my stepdad found a picture of my real father. He ripped it up. To this day, I still do not know who my father is. I always called my stepdad David, and he called me by my middle name, Orson. To him, it was better than looking at me and calling me son. I am still ashamed of my middle name. He tried to teach me how to spell. I showed him homework from my first grade class. It was a list of words assigned for me to spell. He looked at me as he was sharpening a pencil with his knife. I remember the way he forced my hand to write, how the pencil stabbed each letter, the lead smearing. I imagined each word bruising as I stared at them. The words reminded me of the word puzzle, but without images, it meant nothing to me. He said, "Spell them out." I could not. Then sound them out first. I recall a day like many other days in grammar school when an older boy made fun of me because I could not speak proper English. I always mispronounced words, and I would wonder how to spell them. I still could not move the pencil in my hand. I saw the letters lined up on paper, but I wanted to circle them. He shouted out, "Spell them out, you little fucker. I'm going to hit you if you don't." I remember the shape of his fist. No one was around, not even my mother. It was as close to intimacy as I got with my stepdad. I did not say anything to anyone. He bought me toys as an act of contrition. I forgave him. When David hit me on the head, I saw stars in the shape of the alphabet. Years later, my fascination for letters resulted in poems.
I'm first going to read a poem called A New Language by Cassandra Lopez, born in 1978. Her tribe/nation is listed as Cahuilla, Tongva, and Luiseño. A New Language. My words are always collapsing upon themselves, too tight in my mouth. I want a new language, one with at least 50 words for grief and 50 words for love, so I can offer them to the living who mourn the dead. I want a language that understands sister pain and heart hurt, so when I tell you, brother, is the hook of my heart, you will see the needle threading to me the others, numbered men, women, and children of our grit-spit city. I want a language to tell you about 2010's 37th homicide, the unsolved, a man that my city turned to number, sparking me back to longer days when ocean is the mouth of summer. Our shell fingers drive into sand searching. We find tiny silver sand crabs. We scoop and scoop till we bore and go in search of tangy seaweed. We are salted sun. How we brown to earth, our warm flesh flowering. In this new language, our bones say sun and sea, reminding us of an old language our mouths have forgotten, but our marrow remembers. This next poem is called Fallen Leaves. It's by Mary Cornelia Harjo. Her dates are 1910 to 1980, Choctaw tribe or nation. Fallen Leaves, an Indian grandmother's parable. Many times in my life, I have heard the white sages who are learned in the knowledge and lore of past ages speak of my people with pity. Say, gone is their hour of dominion. By the strong wind of progress, their power rose past its brief time of blooming, lies shattered. Like the leaves of the oak tree, its peoples are scattered. This is the 81st autumn since I can remember. Again, the leaves, born in April and dead by December, riding the whimsied breeze, zigzagging and whirling, coming to earth at last and slowly upcurling, withered and sapless and brown into discarded fragments of what once was life, chattering parchments that crackle and rustle like old women's laughter. When the merciless wind with swift feet coming after will drive them before him with unsparing lashes, till they are crumbled and crushed into forgotten ashes. Crumbled and crushed and piled deep in the gulches and hollows, soft bed for the yet softer snow that in winter fast follows. But when in the spring the light falling patter of raindrops persuading, insistently calling, wakens to life again, forces that long months have slumbered, there will come whispering movement and green things unnumbered, will pierce through the mold with their yellow-green, sun-searching fingers or spear tips grown tall, will bud at another year's breaking. One day when the brooks, manumuted by sunshine, are making music like gold in the spring of some far generation. And up from the long-withered leaves, from the musty stagnation, life will climb high to the furthermost leaflets. The bursting of catkins asunder with greed for sunlight, the thirsting of twisted brown roots for earth water, the gradual unfolding of brilliance and strength in the future. The earth's bosom is holding, today in those scurrying leaves, soon to be crumpled and broken. Let those who have ears hear my word and be still. I have spoken. Another poem by Mary Cornelia Harjo. This one is called The Poet. Sunlight was something more than that to him. It was a halo when it formed a rim around some far-off mountain peak. He called it thin beat leaf of gold and stood enthralled when it lay still on some half-sheltered spot in gilt mosaics, where the trees forgot to hide the grasses carpeting the spot. The sky, to him, was not just the blue sky, but a deep painted bowl with clouds piled high. And when these clouds were tinted burning red or gold and Bacchic purple, then he said, the 2 full goblets of the gods had overrun, nor give the credit to the disappearing sun who flames before he leaves the world indone. Between his eyes and life, fate seemed to hold a magic tissue of transparent gold that freed his vision from the dull, drab, hopeless part and kept alive a fresh, unsaddened heart. And all unselfishly, he tried to share his gift with us who see the harsh and the bare. We refused. We did not know or care. The next 2 poems that I'm going to read, and they're, I think, the last poems of this program today, are by Joy Harjo, who, as Harry told you at the beginning, I think is the editor of this amazing anthology of Indigenous poetry. She was born in 1951, and her tribe or nation is Muskokie. This poem is called Running. It's closing time. Violence is my boyfriend with a cross to bear, hoisted on by the church. He wears it everywhere. There are no female deities in the Trinity. I don't know how I'm going to get out of here, said the flying fish to the tree. Last call. We've had it with history, we who look for vision here in the Indian and poetry bar, somewhere to the left of hell. Now I have to find my way where there's a river to cross and no boat to get me there, when there appears to be no home at all. My father, gone, chased by the stepfather's gun. Get out of here. I found my father at the bar, his ghost at least, some piece of him in this sorry place. The boyfriend's convincing to a crowd. Right now, he's the spell of attraction. What tales he tells. In the fog of thin hope, I wander this sad world we've made with the enemy's words. The lights quiver like they do when the power's dwindling to a dangling string. It is time to go home. We are herded like stoned cattle, like children for the bombing drill, out the door into the dark street of this old Indian town where there are no Indians anymore. I was afraid of the dark because then I could see everything. The truth with its eyes staring back at me, the mouth of the dark with its shiny moon teeth, no words, just a hiss and a snap. I could hear my heart hurting with my in the dark ears. I thought I could take it. Where was the party? It's been a century since we left home with the Indian soldiers at our backs. The party had long started up in the parking lot. He flew through the dark, broke my stride with a punch. I went down and came up. Thought I could take being a girl with her heart in her arms. I carried it for justice, for the rights of all Indians. We all had that cross to bear. The old ones followed me, the quiet girl with the long dark hair, the daughter of a warrior who wouldn't give up. I wasn't ready yet to fling free the cross. I ran and I ran through the 2 a.m. streets. It was my way of breaking free. I was anything but history. I was the wind. Okay, last poem also by Joy Harjo, and this one is called She Had Some Horses. She had some horses. She had horses who were bodies of sand. She had horses who were maps drawn of blood. She had horses who were skins of ocean water. She had horses who were the blue air of sky. She had horses who were fur and teeth. She had horses who were clay and would break. She had horses who were splintered red cliff. She had some horses. She had horses with eyes of trains. She had horses with full brown thighs. She had horses who laughed too much. She had horses who threw rocks at glass houses. She had horses who licked razor blades. She had some horses. She had horses who danced in their mother's arms. She had horses who thought they were the sun and their bodies shone and burned like stars. She had horses who waltzed nightly on the moon. She had horses who were much too shy and kept quiet in stalls of their own making. She had some horses. She had horses who liked creek stomp dance songs. She had horses who cried in their beer. She had horses who spit at male queens who made them afraid of themselves. She had horses who said they weren't afraid. She had horses who lied. She had horses who told the truth, who were stripped bare of their tongues. She had some horses. She had horses who called themselves horse. She had horses who called themselves spirit and kept their voices secret and to themselves. She had horses who had no names. She had horses who had books of names. She had some horses. She had horses who whispered in the dark, who were afraid to speak. She had horses who screamed out of fear of the silence, who carried knives to protect themselves from ghosts. She had horses who waited for destruction. She had horses who waited for resurrection. She had some horses. She had horses who got down on their knees for any savior. She had horses who thought their high price had saved them. She had horses who tried to save her, who climbed in her bed at night and prayed. She had some horses. She had some horses she loved. She had some horses she hated. These were the same horses. I was wrong. There's one more poem. This is also by Joy Harjo, and it's called Rabbit is Up to Tricks. In a world long before this one, there was enough for everyone until someone got out of line. We heard it was Rabbit, fooling around with clay and wind. Everybody was tired of his tricks, and no one would play with him. He was lonely in this world. So Rabbit thought to make a person. And when he blew into the mouth of the crude figure to see what would happen, the clay man stood up. Rabbit showed the clay man how to steal a chicken. The clay man obeyed. Rabbit showed him how to steal corn. The clay man obeyed. Then he showed him how to steal someone else's wife. The clay man obeyed. Rabbit felt important and powerful. Clay man felt important and powerful. And once that clay man started, he could not stop. Once he took that chicken, he wanted all the chickens. Once he took that corn, he wanted all the corn. And once he took that wife, he wanted all the wives. He was insatiable. Then he had a taste of gold, and he wanted all the gold. Then it was land and anything else he saw. His wanting only made him want more. Soon it was countries, then it was trade. The wanting infected the earth. We lost track of the purpose and reason for life. We began to forget our songs. We forgot our stories. We could no longer see or hear our ancestors or talk with each other across the kitchen table. Forests were being mowed down all over the world. And Rabbit had no place to play. Rabbit's trick had backfired. Rabbit tried to call the clay man back, but when the clay man wouldn't listen, Rabbit realized he'd made a clay man with no ears.
Thank you all for Amy, Kate, Corinne, for such a marvelous, loving, sacred, elegiac reading, and playful too, and the dualities of life. I mean, this is just really a refreshing anthology. why don't we have about 8 or 9 minutes. Why don't we each take a couple of minutes and talk about the poetry and the reading, if you like. We'll start with Corinne and then Kay and then Amy.
Well, I was kind of stunned by the Harjo poem, Rabbit is Up to Tricks. I've never heard that. I've heard she had some horses, of course. But it's like she's figured it all out. And I get the feeling when I read this, and Harry, you said we're not there is no such thing as a Native American. Can I not call these tribes Native Americans? So people will understand what I'm talking about. But it seems to me that the poems that I read were from 1700s and 1800s. And I felt they kind of just embodied what poetry is all about. They seem to understand that. It came very naturally. And I think probably it's because of their close association with earth, wind, and fire. They're so part of the world. And that is kind of being so close to it makes them very, very good poets. And of course, as it goes on, they really tell the story of what happened to Native Americans here. I think but it's all beautiful poetry and so well expressed. Yeah, I'm amazed.
Hey.
Oh, well, I agree. I love these poems. They touch my heart. Some of the ones that I read really touched me. The severity of the lives, the longing for freedom, to be noticed, to be wanted. It's very, very touching. And I love the ones that Amy did, especially the last two. So I just feel so lucky to be exposed to this work, and to Harry to be part of this. Just is such a learning experience for me, and I appreciate it every time I get to hear other people reading these poems. They seem so universal.
Amy?
Yeah, I agree with what Kay said, and I feel like it was a great selection to go chronologically, sort of, and pick these older poems and see the range and how history is reflected in them, and the fact that these poems have an amazing relationship with different poems to nature and to the earth, and also acknowledge a rupture in that relationship and the pain of that, and the violence of that, and that the poems also have, some of them are parable-like, they take different forms, and some of them have humor and sarcasm and anger. I guess maybe that's one of the things that makes them so universal, as Kay was acknowledging, and makes them powerful and lasting.
And that one poem that Kay read, Advice to Myself, which was somewhat humorous but true. There are a couple of lines in there where she's telling you what to leave aside, and then she says, pursue the authentic. Decide first what is authentic, then go after it with all your heart that place you don't even think of cleaning out. And then later on, she says, accept new forms of life and talk to the dead. Also, their relationship with those who have passed on, and that fragile veil between the living and the dead, that respect that they have, and always the sacredness too in their poetry, regardless of what has gone on. You three are just so smart and insightful and great in reading, and you bring these poems on others alive, and so I'm the one who's blessed. All of us are blessed by your readings and your interpretations, and so we all co-create this show together, and I'm just thankful for all of you and for the poets, including Amy, who come from outside of here. I want to just say one thing just before we still have a couple of minutes, but I just want to make an announcement that there will not be a live show next week. A replay of a reading of Wallace Stevens' Notes Toward a Supreme Fiction will be shown. And then in our next live show will be Tuesday, December 3rd with Marcia De La O and Miriam Sagan. And so those will be good. And the Wallace Stevens reading was fabulous. But we still have a couple minutes left. Corinne, what else would you like to say?
It was interesting I'm still in my mind, maybe from the poems that I read. I just was amazed that they were, these people, they'd had not a lot of education at that point, but they somehow are so in tune with the world that they could write a poetry, a real poetry, because they had such understanding, and you kind of felt that they lived their life as a poet might in writing a poem. I was just impressed with their interior knowledge. How do you put it? I don't know. And then, of course, the advice to myself that Kay read, I'm certainly not going to bother to clean out my refrigerators as heartily as I had. I love that. Let some new life grow. Yeah.
Also, Corinne, when you were talking about too, when that poem you read about the song My Paddle, whatever the title that was, and that's the song that, that poet wrote about, the song that the paddle made.
Paddle going, yeah.
Kay and Amy, we have like 1 minute left if you want to add something to what has been said.
I'll give it to Amy.
She's
let's see. It's interesting to hear the work out loud. I think that maybe more than some other poetry, some of this work historically is meant to be spoken out loud, to be, I love the refrain in the Joy Harjo poem that keeps coming back to kind of rhythmically, almost like an incantation. She had some horses, and then we hear the wild kinds of horses, which are obviously, allegories and images and metaphors for human problems and situations. And then we come back to she had some horses. So it's great not just to sit with the anthology and read, but to have an opportunity to hear this out loud. It's a lot of the poems refer to songs, our songs, as a kind of heritage. And this is all, I would think, part of that.
We remember, when you think about the tribal songs and so much drumming, tom-toms and things, and rhythm and beat is just so a part of their life.
Well said, Corinne, and thank you once again, Corinne Conley, Kay Weissman, Amy Gerstler, for a wonderful reading. And now we turn it over to the next show, which is Cinephiles, a great show with great people, a lot of knowledge about movies. So thank you very much.